See, we share borders here. Most part of one of our local governments in Kwandi shares border with Cameroon, very porous borders. Then internally we also share borders with Taraba, Nasarawa. Nasarawa is quite vast as well. Kogi, Enugu, Ebonyi, Cross River. So, but where we have a number of incessant, persistent, and continuous attacks is from this axis. So, have they find their way all through to get into us? You know, it's also indicative of the porousness of our borders. But we're Nigerians. We know our faces. We know our faces. You know, we share same features. We understand all this. So when we see those who are mercenaries, those who are fighters, those who look very different from the associated headers we know, we understand that.
Governor, you've been named. The uniqueness of Benue State. By the way, the whole Nigeria is watching this, so we want to believe that there are a lot of people who have been looking forward to this opportunity to really meet you, and I think you've done well by explaining the transition. But let's delve into Benue State, the uniqueness. When we talk about Benue, from primary school, we've been told this is the food basket of the nation, and we are not unaware of the challenge of insecurity. So how has it been? As much as this is my personal view, there's a lot of change in terms of positive, in terms of reduction in insecurity. But insecurity is still insecurity, even when a life is wasted or killed. So what has been the reality, and how are you addressing that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Let me first of all build a context to this. Benue became independent since 76.
76, yeah.
A number of dynamics came to play. During the military administration, it was quite different. May 28th, in 1975, the ECOWAS came up with a proposal. And the proposal was suggestively saying that ECOWAS, West African countries, should try to see how they can absorb pastoralists crossing the borders for grazing. I think it kind of took Nigeria quite some time. But in '98, Nigeria adopted this. So Nigeria had now accepted the cross-border and the transhumans portfolio that was proposed in '75 by then the OAU. You know, OAU came into being, I'm thinking, in '63.
60, yes. 60.
Yeah, and then it lasted into '99. So all this while, it was only by 1998 that Nigeria adopted this. We had lived by this axis, even as a child growing up. We knew that we call them the traditional herders. You know, during the summer area period, they could, and then there were routes as well. They could come past, you know, wherever they were going. As children, we never knew. But then afterwards, and then they vanished. During the rainy season, they were no longer there until the dry seasons came in during the following year. So there was there wasn't any friction per se. But since after the adaptation in 1999, there was a very drastic change. I'm not sure a number of things were conceived for this protocol, the transhuman and the border crossing between goods and the humans by the ECOWAS borders were considered so much. If they were, I think they would require a revisiting. Here's the thing. We are 23 local governments in the state. As I speak now, about 17 local governments are housing the IDPs. We have a number of local governments up to now 9 that are in the front lines of the insecurities. As bad as this might sound, and as horrible it may sound, remember, we share a population of about 7 million. Over a quarter before I came into governance, it's even on the records, everywhere, even on the YouTubes and social media, it's out there. So before we came in, we heard, we saw, we were told that 1.5 million, people were in this bondage of the IDPs. And as June last year, 2024, we recorded 500,000 people approximately, which speaks about over 870,000 families, that became displaced. How do we get the data? Before we came in, there was no data. Until we got in there through the assistance of the United Nations, then we got that established via the IOM. So it is a full recorded, deliberate data that was created. So this is what we have. Our people are primarily agrarian because this is the headquarters of the food zone. We were quite good. We were the first producers of yams in the world. It's on the record. We were #1 producers of soybeans. I think we recorded about #4 on sesame production. And then even on rice. On rice, before this time, we were feeding the northern Nigeria. And then most part of the eastern Nigeria as well. So we were quite good on what we were doing until the nomadism came into play, and then the pastoralists also had to source for the lean resources, the natural resources that now came to play. And I believe that there are a number of factors that may have even costs, so many things in here. Increase in population, so the routes are no longer there, now closed. And then talk about climate change, and a number of issues that come with such changes. So those may be the factor, but the UN standard and speak, those are the things that emerged, that pushed even the pastoralists for all the crises we are having between the farmers by axis and then the pastoralists. The challenges are there. With the traditionalists, traditional full herders, they only came with their cattle, at most 6, and then cutlasses, some machetes. But that is no longer the case. What we experience today, it's calculated, calibrated, planned, strategized, and then executed. And it has a number of things attached to this. It is not the usual form and frame we know. What happens now is, as they walk through, there is a planned destabilization. The locals are driven out via killings and then pushing away, and then for the mercenaries will come in first. They will attack, and once we cry, and then we are settled down, and then we put some measures in place. After a little while, then they show up again. And then by this time, we see lots of herds, and then with a number of human beings coming in just to occupy the places. So I think I wouldn't be wrong to say land grabbing, it's part of these challenges we have in this. So instead of producing all the food some more, a colleague and a brother of mine, the governor of Niger State, who is just coming into farming now, kind of teases me each time, we are together and talking over issues and comparing notes. that for the record, he wants me to know that Niger State is keeping the food, Benue State is keeping the basket, you know. But I just tell him, well, although we have been vastly destabilized, we're still making a lot of efforts to going back to farming. Here's the thing. When the destabilization, the maiming, the land grabbing, the killings took place, we lost so much human lives and the land. And since there were no data, no plan, no strategy, it was quite challenging initially when we came in. This is why we had to seek some intervention from the United Nations for us to be able to know the numbers that are displaced, to be able to know the families that are affected, and then to know the number of the destructions and all that we have incurred. So having been able to assemble all the data, all the information now, we took a further step. We have now come up with a Benue State durable solution on the IDPs. And it is purported to fulfill three major roles. It talks about a number of factors. But one being that these people are displaced, they are brothers and sisters. What do? We still have to accept them, assimilate them, we share same culture and everything. So that is one. And then the second one again is the relocation. That is place they cannot just be hanging out there in vacuum. So we had to look for a short-term scheme for them, which is the IDP camps. So now the state hosts up to 14 camps, 14 IDP camps all over the state. And one of the third pivotal aim of the durable solution on IDPs is to get them back to their ancestral lands. So, just assuming you have a wound, and it's an old wound, and it's been infected, and a number of things are in there. And then even if you are giving injection, one injection cannot just suffice. So it has to be a series of injections, and this is what we have been doing. And the federal government has been on this traverse with us as well, putting in their own efforts. So let me quickly call on the federal government even to go an extra mile. If the ECOWAS transhumans protocol is reversed, at least for Nigeria, would be in the best position. Meaning, if the federal government gets back there to tell ECOWAS, well, this was made on a friendly basis, with no evil intent and all that, but the opposite is the result. So let us now retreat. Let us see what we can do to fix the internal insecurities we have before any other thing. I think that would be a very huge milestone for the federal government, and then also we, the subnationals, who are facing all the insecurities. Again, let it be on the record that it's not only Benue that has this, a number of places. But again, what we have noticed, a lot of the attacks are in the northeast, quite all right, and then the north central, for some reason, is spreading to other ends of the subnationals as well. The entire north central has so much. I think it is even becoming even more convoluted, in the sense that, take Benue for instance, we have a lot of natural resources. We have the land, we have the water, we have the gold, we have the lithium, you name them, we have the uranium, we have everything. So instead of the blessings we have becoming a curse, I think as teaching time saves 9. So if the federal government moves and some steps forward to do this, the national internal security, believe me, would also be fixed. Ours, there's no question about that. will be fixed.
Just before Abdul comes in, Mr. Governor, what you have just said is suggestive that the bulk of the pastoralists are from neighboring countries and may not be directly indigenous.
No. There's no question about that. This is a fact. This is a fact. And see, we share borders here. Most part of one of our local governments in Kwandi shares border with Cameroon. Very porous borders. Then internally we also share borders with Taraba, Nasarawa. Nasarawa is quite vast as well. Kogi, Enugu, Ebonyi, Cross River. So, but where we have a number of incessant, persistent, and continuous attacks is from this axis. So have they find their way all through to get into us? You know, it's also indicative of the porousness of our borders. But we're Nigerians. We know our faces. We know our faces. You know, we share same features. We understand all this. So when we see those who are mercenaries, those who are fighters, those who look very different from the associated headers we know, we understand that.
Mr. Governor, you've been named Mr. 25, meaning you pay on the 25 of every month, something that looks impossible before you came. What's the magic, and do you think this is sustainable to the end of your tenure?
Thanks much for this question. If my cronies tell you that my administration is being fought left, right, center, that is one of the reasons. Mr. 25. And by the way, it's not just 25. We have shifted the decimal between 22nd and 23rd because I want my folks in here to plan ahead and to plan well. I hate it. My father was also a civil servant and then a teacher. So they had lots of wiggle rooms in their planning. Unlike before May 29th, 23.